Hey guys, welcome back. So today is going to be a little bit different, but it is a video that is going to provide us all with an opportunity to speak our mind and share our experiences and perhaps give some insight to brokers. Yep, brokers. Now you guys know me. When it comes to this particular topic, I do tend to rant, but I will try to keep it together today, and I'm going to try to keep it educational. Now, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I teach about the trucking industry with a heavy focus on the spot market as well as freight market analysis, while we try to make sense of this craziness. So if this is a topic that interests you, feel free to subscribe and join an awesome community of industry professionals. So over the past week, I have received numerous emails about a topic that I really did not expect to see. I received emails from 12 brokers, yes, I counted, who are either looking to get into this industry or are already in it and trying to improve their position. And the question that was being asked in these emails was pretty much the same all around. What can I do to build or improve my reputation with carriers? Now, this shocked the crap out of me because, yeah, I'm used to receiving an email from a broker here and there asking their questions. I'm always happy to answer. But such a large influx of emails asking pretty much the same question over a short period of time tells me that there is really something happening in the market and brokers are trying to prepare for the impending flip. When it's going to happen, no one really knows, but it is coming. So let's chat. Ready? Let's go. Now, since this is an educational channel, I decided this would be a great opportunity to make a video to educate brokers on a topic that they're not really as familiar with as they should be. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, when a broker decides to go and work for a brokerage, or when a person decides to become a broker at a firm, big or small, one of the biggest things they focus on in your training is sales, how to keep as much money in the company, and how to find the cheapest carriers. Again, as far as I know, relationship building, etiquette, and forecasting based on the psychological environment that you're currently in is not something that is being taught. So for the brokers watching, consider this a free lesson that will benefit you in the future. It might be a harsher video, but trust me, there is benefit there. Another thing I have to mention is I'm pretty much sure that there are going to be a ton of opinions in the comments down below, a lot of helpful ones. So I do encourage you to read the comments and share your opinion. After all, we on the carrier side really do have a lot to say after what we have endured for the past 19 months. So first and foremost, let's set the stage, if you will, just so that we're all on the same page. The trucking market is like a set of dominoes lined up one after another. If one piece falls down, it takes the whole line of tiles with it. Now think of the general market, the one that I talk about pretty much in every video I make, as that first domino tile. Now, the market is starting to see a shakeup. Capacity is exiting and tender rejections are increasing. So basically what we can conclude, and the best way to illustrate this, is that first domino tile is about to fall, and it's going to cause a chain reaction which will not be to the benefit of brokers or shippers. Now, why is the market starting to rumble? Well, it's definitely not because our economy is flourishing and people are buying more. No, the market is starting to auto-correct itself very slowly because of the fact that capacity is leaving, because carriers simply cannot survive the current conditions. Now, this is very important, and we will get back to this topic in just a few minutes. Now, let's talk about what brokers rely on when it comes to income. And I'm not talking about, well, they rely on shippers and volumes in order to make money. That is too general. The reality is brokers have two avenues, the contract market and the spot market. Now, we know for a fact that the contract market follows the pattern of the spot market, but it is quite delayed. So this means as contract rates start getting renegotiated this year and next year, they're going to be renegotiated with the current spot market in mind for the most part, which means that we are going to see rates dwindle or remain at the bottom. Now, let me read you something from Freight Waves, and I quote, "As the freight market comes out of the doldrums, shippers may pay higher prices to ship their freight in 2024. However, the next stage of the freight cycle may be much harder on freight brokerages than shippers. Many shippers have started to prefer asset-based carriers in their routing guides, which has meant lost volume for brokers. The contract spread will tighten as spot rates increase, while contract rates stay near their floor. This means that freight brokers with freight committed in the contract market will see their margins squeezed. Now, going back to what I previously said, the freight market is starting to see some semblance of a change at the bottom layer, not because something is increasing volumes by a crazy amount. It's predominantly because carriers simply cannot survive the current market. There is not enough money to be made in the trucking industry to cover the costs of running a trucking company. As many people in this community have said, truckers are the only professionals, or one of the only professionals, who have seen an increase in all of their expenses because of inflation, but a decrease in their income, because unfortunately the price of transportation somehow is not subject to inflation, but rather supply and demand. Now, about a year ago, maybe a little bit less, I made a rant video where I said that eventually these rates that brokers and shippers are offering are going to come to bite them in the behind. And at this point, I can confidently say that every day we're getting closer and closer to that moment. Now, we carriers, we love to blame brokers for everything, but for a moment, I want you to step away from the emotion and look at it from a logical standpoint. Shippers have been using the downturn in the market to benefit themselves, right? To save on those transportation costs. Don't kid yourself. Shippers are not saints who are trying to make carriers money. Being a shipper is being a business, and a business's only goal is to keep as much money in the company's pocket as possible. So those shippers that everyone seems to praise, and probably it's because they're trying to contrast them against brokers, they're not saints. Their goal is to make money, not to make the carriers money. So from a logical standpoint, brokers are in a position where shippers offer them cheap rates, and then the broker takes that cheap rate minus the commission that they take off the top, which is often way too steep, and offers that to the carrier. So the question now is the following. Is the shipper the culprit of the current crazy bad rates? Or is it the broker who takes bad rates and then takes off 30, 40, 50% off the top and offers that junk to carriers? Or is it the carriers who are stupidly taking those $1 per mile loads? The answer is, and this is my opinion, and you're welcome to disagree, but in my opinion, shippers are in the clear. And the reason the market is so bad is because of two parties, brokers and carriers. See, shippers, they do not set the market rate. They really cannot do that because they have one goal. Their goal is to move their freight, and they will pay whatever they have to pay in order to move it. However, then we have the brokers, and the brokers crap their pants every time they're bidding on a load with a shipper because of competition and the fear of losing that volume to your competition. So what happens? Each brokerage is starting to underbid the other. One broker says I can move it for $1,200 this load. The other broker says I can move it to $1,000, and so on and so forth, until the lowest bidder wins, because the shipper wants to save money as well. And then we have carriers who also start crapping their pants anytime a load comes up. Let's say a broker managed to win a bid at $1,000. They take 30% into their pocket, post that load for $700 on the load board. We have 100 carriers competing for that crap load until one of them wins. And this is just because carriers are too afraid to stay without a load. So for the sake of being able to say that, hey, at least I have a load, they will gladly take a $700 load when they need to cover 560 miles. So what are brokers guilty of? And no, don't give me some emotional answer like everything. They're guilty of everything. No, we're trying to be logical here. Brokers are guilty of three things. Number one, they let fear control them. The fear of losing their customer and the fear of losing volume control them when they're bidding on loads. Pretty much the same as the carriers who take cheap freight. Number two, they're guilty of taking 30, 40, 50, sometimes 60% off the top of the load. And number three, many of them are guilty of the fact that they use the current situation as an excuse to treat carriers like absolute trash. Now, all of this paired with the fact that carriers are ready to take the cheapest load on the load board just for the sake of actually moving something, well, this is where the current problem comes with capacity exiting the market. Now, I know that I said that I want us to try to be logical, step away from emotion, but I cannot. So a rant is coming. I apologize. I have worked with over 350 brokers over my 4 years of experience. And out of those 350 brokers, there are maybe 50 brokers that I will go out of my way for and provide capacity to them at a fair rate once the market turns. The rest are on my list. People are an interesting breed. There's so much that can motivate us, but nothing motivates a person more than anger. And of course, I'm no exception. As I said to one of the brokers that did email me for help about building their reputation with carriers, they emailed me today. I told them that one of the reasons, it's not the only reason, but one of the reasons that I'm sticking to this industry and I'm not ready to give up is because I cannot wait for the moment when the market turns and I have the upper hand. Now, it's not something I'm particularly proud of because this is a very emotional answer, but the saying, here's a taste of your own medicine, is something that really motivates me. Now, once the freight flips start rippling through the market, there are going to be a few brokers. I know them by name. It's not the brokerage, it's the broker, right? There are going to be a few brokers that I'm going to shake for every cent they have on every load that they offer. The only thing that I refuse to mirror is the disgusting way some brokers treat carriers. I have been called I have been told that they hope that I go bankrupt. I have had brokers laugh and say when I ask for a better rate. That, in my opinion, is not just a lack of professionalism, that requires a medical diagnosis. Okay, rant is over. There's a lot of built up anger, as you can tell. But here we go. Lesson for brokers. How can you build your reputation to be successful in the near future? And this is a very important thing to keep in mind because if you look through any videos and the comments under those videos that are similar to the topic as I'm covering today, you will see that the general sentiment among carriers is that, they're looking for revenge. So if you're someone who's looking to stick it out in this industry and you're looking to come out on top when everything else is stacked against you, listen up. Now, it is true that the market is not yet in a place where carriers have an upper hand. Although there are markets where that is the case. Our step deck, yes, we got a step deck. Our step deck ended up in a market that was really, really good. And I had a blast negotiating while my phone was blowing up. I knew I was in the position of power. It was a great day. So there are markets like that. But in general, the whole industry, the whole freight market is slowly moving in the direction that will benefit carriers. And as we already know, as I already said, and you guys know the sentiment, many carriers are looking for a way to get back at brokers. And the best way to do it is through rates and through not providing capacity and kind of throwing the brokers under the bus. So the pieces of advice that I'm going to give you as brokers is something that I recommend implementing now, because if you delay it, it might be too late. Number one, this goes without saying, leave your talking at home. You are an industry professional, act like one. If a carrier asks for a rate that seems obscene to you, saying something along the lines of, I'm sorry, I just do not have that much in the load, is much better than laughing, saying, and hanging up the phone. Those who treat carriers like dirt, cuss them out, you guys are burning bridges that you don't even realize you will need to use. Number two, educate your clients. As a broker, it is your job to educate your clients on the current market as well as the forecasts. Shippers do not set the rates. As I already said, they are just waiting for the best that comes along for the most part. So educate your clients. Tell them why you need a higher rate and explain to them how it will benefit them in the long run. Because if this doesn't stop, shippers are going to find themselves in a situation where they cannot move their existing freight. Number three, understand, just let it sink into your head what you are actually taking off the top of each load. I completely get it. We're all in business to make money. But if a shipper is offering you $2.50 per mile, thinking that they're paying a fair rate, and you take that and offer it up for $1.90 on the load board, well, here you are with your own two hands killing off the capacity that you will need in the near future. Basically, you're doing your client and yourself a disservice in the long run. This is, by the way, also probably the reason some shippers are turning to asset-based carriers rather than having to do it through brokers. Number 4, and I know that 99.99999% of the brokers will not agree with me, because how could I ever say this? But transparency is key. Currently, carriers are inclined to blame brokers for every single thing that goes wrong in their day-to-day. Now, I understand that there are some brokers who pocket, again, 50% off the top of the load, and it would just be embarrassing to be transparent and show exactly what they're earning and what they're paying the carrier. But still, I encourage every broker to choose transparency. Be open about what the shipper, your client, paid you, how much you're taking off the top, and what you're actually paying the carrier. Because transparency, it breeds trust. And trust is exactly what you will need in order to be successful in securing capacity in the somewhat near future. What each and every broker has to start understanding and accepting is that over the past 2 years, it has been really easy for you guys to secure capacity. However, this is about to flip, and it's not just because carriers are leaving the industry and going bankrupt and shuttering their doors. It's also because of the human factor and the fact that carriers currently are holding a serious grudge against brokers, not shippers, regardless of the fact that shippers pay less as well. Now, unfortunately, there is nothing you can do at this point about the capacity slowly leaking out of the market. However, there is a chance for you to put yourself in a stronger position so that when the market flips, you're able to still get capacity. And it all boils down to respect and building relationships. Now, there are some that are going to say, this, carriers, I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. And you know what? That's totally fine. But just remember that without carriers, you have no clients. And without clients, you have no income. So if in your opinion, treating carriers like trash is the way to go, I encourage you strongly to continue doing it. Just don't be surprised when the carriers start turning away from you and you start losing your hard-earned clients, simply because you can no longer offer the capacity that you promised. The problem I see with brokers, and this is probably the biggest problem, is that it seems like a lot of them live in the present moment day by day, and they don't really have any regard for the future. You know what it's like? It's like if you are walking and you're looking at your feet constantly. You're not looking ahead, you're looking at your feet. And by the time you realize that you just took a step off a cliff, it's too late. So my final advice for brokers is look ahead. Over the past 2 years, getting carriers has been pretty easy. I hear it when I call on a load. I hear the phone ringing. So all you have to do is post that load, and then hundreds of carriers start coming to you. You don't have to do much. The thing is, this is about to start actively changing. What do I predict will happen in the future? And you guys know I don't like to predict things, but this is a very likely scenario. I predict that once enough capacity leaves, forget the volumes, enough capacity leaves, shippers are going to be enlisting the help of several brokers on one load, hoping to find some capacity. And all these brokers are going to be competing with each other, trying to find at least one carrier who is going to transport that load. So now, not only do you have a problem with volume because of the crazy competition, but you also have a problem finding a carrier to actually move what you do have, because number one, carriers have been forced out of the market due to the cheap rates that have been offered for 2 years. And number two, you have spent the last 2 years treating carriers like crap, and they remember that, so they decide not to work with you. Now, of course, I'm not talking about all brokers. I will use R&R Express as an example. I love that broker, regardless of rate. It can be a cheap rate. They have always treated me with respect. Same with Molo Solutions. Regardless of rate, they have always been respectful. These are two brokers that I will always prioritize simply because they showed respect to my work, when they could have easily spat in my face and still got their load covered by another carrier. Now, I would love to ask all of you guys, and this applies to brokers, carriers, owner-operators, drivers, dispatchers, everyone. I would love to hear your opinions on this. And I get there's going to be anger from both sides, but all I ask is to channel that anger into something more educational. I mean, I was not the calmest person in this video either. Anyway, guys, I look forward to reading your thoughts. I know that this was a harsher video. It was not meant to hurt anyone, but rather give a perspective into the reality of the current situation and where it is moving. In today's email that I got from the broker, there was something along the lines of, I know you despise most brokers, but, and then the question about the reputation followed. And I'm here to say I do not despise most brokers. I don't despise anybody. There are plenty of incredible industry professionals who happen to be brokers in this industry. Those are the people that I am going to prioritize when it comes to booking loads when the market flips. But the problem is that many brokers have kind of ruined the reputation for brokers in general. So I really hope that this video is going to help those brokers who are in it for the long run to finally make tweaks to the way they deal with carriers. It's going to benefit you in the future. Wishing you all, and I mean all of you, including brokers, a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.